we gotta update the interior. Oh, we could change the brake lights. Oh, we could just...
Whoa, Model 3 design team. What's going on?
Oh, nobody's buying the Model 3 because they've all heard about Project Highland now, and they think there's gonna be a big refresh, so we're trying to make it as desirable as possible, and everyone keeps buying the freaking Model Y.
Oh, gee, yeah. Well, you know, we got those gigapresses working. The Model Y is really cheap. I think it's actually cheaper to build than the Model 3 now, so yeah, I guess everybody's buying it.
Will you please just stop lowering the price on the Model Y, okay? The Model 3 has enough of a demand problem as is. We need to make it as good as we can. We brought back the long range. I just can't afford for the Model Y to have any more advantages at this point. Most people don't even know about the HEPA filter.
All right, you got it.
Thank you.
Got it.
Well, hey, what are you doing over there?
What? No, what? Nothing. I'm not doing anything.
I swear to Elon, if you're doing something with the Model Y before bringing it to the Model 3 first...
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'm just some new cameras, just some new hardware that we wanted to put on the Model Y.
I'm serious. We've been using the exact same cameras and full self-driving computer since 2019, and right now, when everybody's looking for reasons to go with the Model Y, you just tried to sweeten the deal even more?
Not a big deal at all. You know, just a little megapixel jump is all. Just a little bit of a resolution and color increase.
What, okay? Did you go from 1 megapixel to 2 or 3 megapixels?
5.
Oh, God, just tell me you didn't increase the frame rate.
We might have increased the frame rate.
Oh, God, okay, can you at least give me Hardware 4 so I can put it in the Model 3 at the same time, or at least a little bit earlier?
No, because the Model 3 assembly line is down, so you're gonna have to wait till the refresh.
Alright, so it has officially begun. Tesla has started switching the Model Y, primarily in Fremont, it seems for now, over to Hardware 4. And I know many of you are interested in what that may mean, and there's definitely been a lot of leaks and rumors surrounding Hardware 4, but now that it's here and we've had a few people actually testing it, I gotta admit, it's not as big a deal as I originally thought. So I got to play around with a Model X recently that had Hardware 4 cameras, and yes, the resolution definitely is increased, and you have more true-to-life colors and a wider aspect ratio, primarily on those side cameras. But if any of you are wondering how do you tell if you have a Hardware 4 system on your Tesla or not, unfortunately, they're not explicitly stating it within the vehicle information page. So really the best way you can tell if it has Hardware 4 or not is just to go to the side camera, you know, that little triangular black spot in the front of the car. And if it has Hardware 3, the blinker indicator light is a lot longer, that little clear gray line with all the slits in it. On Hardware 3, that will almost take up the entire repeater module area, and with Hardware 4, it's much shorter, and it seems like the easiest way to tell the difference. But at first, Green the Only came forward with this, like, picture of the module that actually sits inside the computer, and that's where we heard that, okay, the computer is a completely different shape, which means no retrofits, okay? You're not going to be able to put a Hardware 4 computer into a Hardware 3 equipped Tesla because the modules have different mounting points, and they just won't fit. And even though it's technically easy to remove a side repeater camera and replace it with a new one, you need this new Hardware 4 full self-driving computer on the inside to actually encode and process all of these new camera sensors, because yes, they've upped it to 5 megapixels, which is a much higher resolution, and in order to interpret all of that data, you know, Teslas have about 8 cameras surrounding the entire vehicle, and you need to be using all of them at once for full self-driving to actually work. So you can't just pick and choose, well, can these cameras be Hardware 4 and some cameras be Hardware 3? No. And according to Tesla, you won't need Hardware 4 to achieve full self-driving, but I still take some issues with that. I'll get into that in a minute. But Chris from Dirty Tesla actually just did a great video on how Hardware 4 performs and how it looks compared to Hardware 3. Way better YouTuber, please check him out. But Tesla probably built Hardware 4 to accommodate for lots of different vehicles, right? It's the same hardware right now going in the Model Y as the S and the X, and the Cybertruck, which is gonna have a bumper camera on the front. We don't know exactly why, but there's no new cameras on Hardware 4, at least on the Model S and X or Model Y, so there's probably some overhead built into the full self-driving computer with Hardware 4. It could end up being the same full self-driving computer that they put in the Tesla Semi, which currently doesn't even have basic autopilot, and perhaps it's because they don't feel as confident about how good the HD radar system is. The visibility system is totally different with the Semi, and the camera layout on the side view mirrors is totally totally different. So because Tesla likes to have a one-size-fits-all, you know, they're using the same displays that they use in the Model 3 and Y as they do the Tesla Semi, I don't think it's a big stretch that they're switching the full self-driving computer to be this kind of one-size-fits-all approach for all of their vehicles for manufacturing simplicity and supply chain, you know, cost efficiency. But I think the more important thing to disclose, if you get a Model Y with hardware 4, not all of them have it yet, but because it's a different architecture and it's relying on different cameras, it has a different calibration process than the current vehicles that are running full self-driving beta. And a lot of people have signed up for the subscription or paid the full price and have been able to access FSD beta a lot more lately. They've been rolling it out to more people, but so far all of the Tesla vehicles with hardware 4, at least at the time of recording this video, have not had access to full self-driving beta yet. They also don't get park assist. Yes, even though we just talked about how there's vision only park assist that's rolled out, and it's a little bit weird, it's a little bit goofy, and I'm just overall predicting that it's not as good as the ultrasonic sensor version of park assist, because if it was as good or better, they would roll it out to everybody, because my car with the same camera layout has access to the same full self-driving computer and occupancy network that the vehicles without ultrasonic sensors have access to. So if it was better, they would give it to everybody. But yeah, now vehicles with hardware 4 aren't gonna have park assist, and they don't have summon, and they don't have auto park, or of course smart summon. Basically what I'm trying to say is, if you're taking delivery of a Tesla, like you haven't gotten it yet, and you find out it has hardware 4 on it, probably don't subscribe to full self-driving, because you're not gonna get a ton of those features, at least right away. And I know these days there's a lot less people willing to spend the $15,000 on it, because that's insane, and a lot of people are wondering, when should I subscribe? When should I pay the $200 a month? If you're in the future taking delivery of a Model Y, and you look at the little side repeater camera and see that the blinker line is shorter, that probably means you have hardware 4, and you notice that you don't have the park assist lines, that should be free, you shouldn't have to pay for that. But if those lines are missing, I would not subscribe to full self-driving, because you're likely not going to get in the beta program for a good long while, and also you're not going to have access to a lot of the features like summon or smart summon or auto park. Although Teslas with hardware 4 seem to still have autopilot as well as automatic lane changing, so there's still some functionality there, but it's still in the early days. And this is why, as I said before, even more so now, Tesla really needs a big emphasis on their software team, because not only are they designing FSD beta to work with all of these hardware 3 cars, and they're trying to probably optimize the software for the Cybertruck before it launches later this year, and they got to work on bringing autopilot to the Tesla Semi, but now also they kind of have to relearn and recalibrate full self-driving beta for the hardware 4 computer and the new camera system, which has higher resolution, it can see further, but the positions overall are not that different. The angles are a little bit better because of the wider aspect ratio, but I don't really think the position of the cameras is going to help that much with visibility. It's just the resolution is going to let the cameras interpret data from further away. Chuck Cook's research was showing it was around 300 feet before, and now it's been increased to about 600 feet. So theoretically, now that the computer can respond faster and interpret more pixels at once, this should mean that it's overall safer and higher performing. But this is overall, in case you're wondering why I haven't purchased full self-driving, and also why I haven't subscribed to it, is because it's very easy for Tesla to have this big picture dilemma where, because they're so focused on the future and what they can achieve right now, they don't tend to look at the past and what they've said already with their timelines and their promises for existing hardware. And that's why for several years after Tesla started rolling out full self-driving beta, there were customers that paid the full price for FSD that still were not getting the feature, because they had a 2016 or 2017 Model S and the cameras were a little bit dated and they didn't have the right MCU to display the full self-driving beta visualization. So for several years they were like, hey, when am I gonna get beta? And Tesla just told them, hey, you have older hardware, we'll come around to you. So I'm very nervous now that a lot of people who have just taken delivery of a Tesla with hardware 3 are gonna be thinking, hey, why haven't I gotten an FSD beta update in a while? And it might be because Tesla designates more of their software team to, okay, let's see how well FSD beta can perform now with hardware 4. It's got the better resolution, it's got the better frame rate, it can interpret data a lot faster than before. So we're actually seeing great performance enhancements thanks to hardware 4. Now the car can react quicker and react sooner and interpret data from further away. So that's probably going to, in my opinion, take a lot of the engineers' priority, because of course within a couple months now all Teslas are going to have hardware 4 upon delivery. So Tesla's focus is going to be, well, we should make sure that our new customers that have paid good money for these brand new cars cars and these brand new hardware 4 machines, we need to make sure that they're getting a feature complete version of full self-driving, because arguably they've paid more for it than the people who paid for hardware 3 full self-driving. And then I could see a point where, once again, people with hardware 3 get neglected and get pushed back and basically just told, you know, we'll get around to you. Hardware 3 is good enough for full self-driving, but it's just gonna take a little bit of time. We need to focus on hardware 4 right now, and we'll get to you later. So I don't like that business approach. Like, it still bothers me that there were people who paid for full self-driving when they leased their cars back in 2019, and they had to give their vehicles back after 3 years, and they never once got full self-driving, even though they were promised from Tesla and Elon, oh yeah, we'll probably have this figured out next year, or at the very latest, maybe 2 years or 3 years from now. But 3 years went by, and yeah, those people never really got what they paid for. So kinda icky, and I hope that doesn't happen with hardware 4. I hope they can have designated teams for both, but if there's anything I've learned from following Tesla's development of full self-driving, it's that there's no shortcuts. There's no easy, well, maybe hardware 4 and hardware 3 kind of are backwards compatible, so they can just apply the same single stack code to each of them. It's not a big deal to have both. Yeah, at least in the software world, I've found that's never the case. Any tiny little change you make, any tiny little variable or factor that you fluctuate or alter ends up being way more complex and way more frustrating and taking way longer than Elon or Tesla originally thought. That's why Elon thought last year we would have actually smart summon by now, and it's still not here, and that's why we thought there'd be 1 million robo-taxis by the end of 2020, and we're halfway through 2023 still going, yeah, maybe later this year. Like, I'm a shareholder, I love Tesla, I love the brand, I love the product itself, like I love the hardware because it exists and it's real and it's not trying to sell you so much on some future promise. Like, I like how it exists today, and I admire what the Tesla team has done, and I credit Elon to assembling that team, but because they are so forward-thinking and so futuristic in their mindset, I think the negative of that is you perpetually forget the promises you've made, and that tends to leave a lot of customers in the dust wondering, hey, when are you going to actually give me what you said you were going to give me? That's the same story we had with the right-hand drive Model S and X. They took deposits for it. They told those markets for years they were going to deliver those cars, and then they ended up not doing it. And I wonder if there might be another big wave of that now, where everyone with hardware 3 who paid for full self-driving is going, when are we going to get these new updates? And everyone with hardware 4 is like, well, you're yesterday's tech, so I guess if you want to have the latest and greatest software support, you gotta buy a new car with hardware 4. But that's the confusing thing. Tesla doesn't make it super obvious which cars have it, so Model S and X are pretty easy because they're all assembled in Fremont, and they switched over to hardware 4 a couple months ago, so I'm pretty confident if you haven't ordered a Model S or X, or if you haven't taken delivery of one yet, at the time of recording this video, you will probably have hardware 4. I'm almost certain of that. But with the Model Y now switching, it's not entirely complete. We've definitely seen a lot of Fremont-made Model Y switch over, but Giga Texas is reportedly switching soon, but we're still seeing some Model Ys delivered today that don't have hardware 4, and of course they're still building Model Ys in Shanghai and Berlin, and we haven't really seen hardware 4 show up there yet either. So I guess a lot of people are probably questioning, like, should I deny delivery if I go to the delivery center and I see that it has hardware 3 and not hardware 4? Yeah, you could potentially end up missing out on your deposit and having to wait for the Model Y to show up again, so that's kind of an expensive decision. If it ends up costing you $250, you don't get that order fee back. And I guess I would maybe consider it if you were a die-hard believer that Tesla is going to achieve full self-driving and your car will eventually have robo-taxi functionality. Like, I still struggle to believe that, and personally, I would not delay delivery just for hardware 4 because, yeah, the cameras are a little bit nicer and smoother and the colors are better, but frankly, you don't, like, take pictures with those cameras. It's just for your blind spots and checking behind you, and the hardware 3 cameras are still way better than pretty much any other camera system on other vehicles in that price range today. So even though the colors are a little bit weird, I still think they work fine. But if you are planning on buying your vehicle with full self-driving, or you plan on subscribing to FSD all the time, then yeah, I could somewhat understand why you may want to deny delivery and maybe sink that $250 and say, I'll order again in the hopes that my next vehicle that's available for delivery will actually have hardware 4. You just gotta check those repeater cameras. But yeah, also, for the record, there is no reported cases of any Model 3s that have hardware 4 at this time. Most people are pretty sure when Tesla does the Project Highland refresh with the redesign, that's when it will get hardware 4. Like, there was any more reason for Tesla to come up with a reason to not buy the Model 3 right now. That's pretty much the only Tesla that is growing in inventory because everybody's waiting on the refresh, I guess, and now everybody has reason to wait for hardware 4, but yeah, if you're not really big into the full self-driving stuff or you don't plan on paying for that, yeah, I don't think it's really gonna affect you all that much. It's just some nicer cameras, and arguably, we don't know how long it's gonna take for hardware 4 to get a lot of those features back, so if you buy a vehicle with hardware 3 today, you'll have the vision-based park assist, and if you subscribe to FSD, theoretically, you should get FSD beta, but also keep in mind when you first take delivery of your car, sometimes it takes a couple weeks before it actually starts getting over-the-air updates. At least mine did. It's a big giant mess that Tesla's not making easy for us content creators to explain to you guys, but hopefully there was some useful information in there. What do you guys think of hardware 4? Do you think this will achieve full self-driving and hardware 3 won't? Or do you think hardware 3 will achieve full self-driving? Or do you think none of them will? Feel free to speculate along with me down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. It seriously helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.